Hey everyone, it's been a long time. I owe you a ton of videos, and we've actually been saving a lot of videos. However, time to edit them has been short. So I got kind of tied into coaching last year, and I started with cross country, and then it became track as well. Family stuff going on. I just have not had a lot of time to actually post videos. We have a ton that I really need to get off my phone, so hopefully we will be doing that very soon. So this is kind of a cool one. We just brought it home a few days ago. It is a Kubota G4200, diesel of course, and this is not the HST model, it is actually the manual. The little 3-speed forward gears and 1-speed reverse. Great little tractor, has about 1,600 hours on it. The only thing I've done to it is one of the brackets that holds the air filter and the fuel filter assembly was broken. Somebody had done a really terrible welding job on it. I lined that back up and actually just kind of tacked over the nasty welds. I'm gonna take all that loose and fix it correctly. The other thing I did was I put a little cover here on the side. I'm gonna clean it up a little better because this was fast. Now some of y'all are gonna freak out about this, but it is still plenty of room for grass to come out there. This was just to keep it getting caught and also just to give it a little protection if one of the kids ran up next to me while I was mowing or something like that. We'll do something better with it, but that was a quick, easy fix. So what makes these little suckers so cool? Well, obviously the diesel engine. So roughly it's right around 420 cc's. Don't quote me on that. I think it's like 424 or 418 or something, but right around 420 cc's, mechanically injected, 2-cylinder Kubota. Of course, these are liquid cooled. The radiator actually pulls air from the back to the front, which is something I did not like about my John Deere 4110. With that tractor, the radiator is in the front and it pulls the air back. And when you're mowing in the summer, the operator you're getting blasted by 100+ degree air, even when it's 80 degrees out. It feels like a blow dryer hitting you. And when it's humid, it's not fun. So I do like the fact these are reverse flow, and that's why you have so many of these grills back here. The exhaust is actually fairly quiet. These do use an actual water pump, and you'll see that nastiness. I did not do those welds. By the way, that's why that's got to be fixed, because it was hanging. This weld up here, this kind of like tack, is the one I did, and all I did was crank it up with a flux core and put on there so I could mow with it just to make sure everything worked. Of course, pressure lube system. Some of these safeties have been bypassed, and I do want to turn this back to stock, so these will be getting restored to their factory operation. Roughly, these are around 18 amp charging systems. They're not great, but since these don't need any electricity to run, it works out pretty well. I mean, you've got plenty of juice to run your lights and your gauges and all that. Speaking of which, all the warning lights and the temperature gauge actually works on this tractor. So you have your little glow plug controller switch here. You have your indicator light, low pressure light, and parking light. When I got this, the parking brake was locked up pretty good. A little bit of oil working it back and forth. I actually got that working, and the switch and light works on it. Over here you have your hour meter, and of course your temperature gauge. Temperature gauge does work. And your manual selection. And with this, I honestly at first did not really like the shift pattern. I thought it was really weird. But then as I actually used the tractor, and granted I've only put maybe 2 run hours on it, it actually works really well, because the 2 most common gears you're going to use when mowing is second and reverse. And having them just in line like that makes the transition between those two very quick and easy, just forward and back. These are shaft driven, so the clutch works really well on it. You don't have a whole lot of delay when you push the pedal to whenever you can change gears. And likewise for your first and third, you know, if you have to go around something small or you're creeping around and then go into third, it just seems to work pretty well. Surprisingly, this has a 40-inch deck. I wish it was the 44, but with a 40-inch deck on this thing, you can actually mow in third gear and it does not get bogged down. And we've ran into that with some of the hydrostatic tractors, is that when you try to mow in the higher ranges, they just don't do very well, especially on very hilly terrain, which we're all hill. Surprisingly more power than I thought. These little 2-cylinder Kubotas are rated at somewhere between, depends on what literature you read, roughly around 13, maybe 14 horsepower on the high side. We're gonna fix that though. It doesn't really need more power, but we have stuff in the garage that we can add some power to it and make it a little bit more efficient without hopefully sacrificing any durability on it. Of course, Kubota always has good intake systems. This is no exception. Fuel filter housings right here, of course, easy to get to. You've got 2 fans that drive the mechanical PTO, which is right here. Forward to engage, back to disengage. Makes it very reliable, very simple system. No $200 electrical PTOs to wear out. The injection pump is really simple. Now it's pretty easy to turn these up. There's a lot of videos on how to do it, but what I always look for anytime I'm getting a diesel Kubota is, are your tamper wires and your tamper plugs still in place? On this one here, if you can see it, both those plugs are in place, which tells me the injection pump has not been altered in any way, and your RPMs. So this will limit to how far the rack can travel and basically your RPM. Very important on these. Some people do like to hop them up. This will get a fresh set of glow plugs like most of the diesels I get, and we'll flush out that radiator real good, but fortunately it's in pretty good shape. These are the original tires. Those are the old Goodyears that are now 30 years old. They are weathered, but surprisingly, they do hold air. And those are 23 10-5-12s on the back, so very common tire. This tractor will probably get a set of 24 11-12s. There's a particular tread I really like because we are very hilly, and it probably will get those in the future, especially if we keep it, which I would like to do a full restoration on this one because it's just so cool. I didn't think I would like it so much when I got it, but the more I've operated it, it's kind of made me fall in love with this little guy. Going to the front here, we do have some issues. Somebody has put a different grill on this tractor. I don't know what they were doing, but that is not the grill that came on it. I do have the factory plastic one, and it is split in 2. It has already had some repairs done to it. I think we're gonna try to salvage it and make the factory grill work, because this just looks like crap. On the front, you got plenty of mounting, and I want you guys just to look at this frame. I mean, that thing is massive compared to what you get on most tractors, even by today's standard. Even the mowing deck, when I was looking at the mowing deck, I thought this would be like 14 gauge, and it's not. This piece I put on here is actually just 16 gauge, but the deck itself, when I checked the thickness, is around 11 gauge, which is massive. That is what you typically get on fabricated decks nowadays. Kubota really, they built these things to last. I mean, this is one of their smaller tractors that they put out at the time, but even look at the rear end. I mean, this is nothing compared to some of the bigger units like the B7100, but I mean, for a mower or small garden tractor, that's awesome. I love the fact they give you these 8 mounting points too, because we will definitely be utilizing them for some stuff. And just look at those axle tubes. I mean, that's beefy. And yes, those aren't sleeves, because you can see it's welded all the way to the hub there on both sides. So that is super, super impressive. Just overall, a really well built, good quality tractor. And these 2 cylinders, they sip fuel. I mean, it probably gets twice the range of a gasoline tractor that would have something like a, I don't know, we'll compare it to a K341, big single cylinder, 16 horsepower gas motor. This honestly, I think, has just as much torque. You don't have to really worry about your oil getting super hot because it's liquid cooled. Probably has a little bit more torque, honestly. And just probably gets about double the fuel economy. I forgot to mention the brakes on it does work, and the deck is fairly easy to remove. We're gonna have to build some covers here because the factory covers for the spindles are gone, and even though they're way up under there, I don't like them sitting. So you got your rear pin there, And then you got your front pins here. And of course you take out your PTO shaft, drop it down, and you're good to go. Even looking at the steering, I mean, compared to even like a Sears Suburban, I mean, the steering on this thing is massive. Just, I don't know. I know there's a lot of nostalgia in these old tractors, but they really did build them to last. And that engine, I wouldn't be surprised if it had another 2,000 to 3,000 hours on it, because it doesn't smoke at all as far as blow-by goes. But anyway, we'll start it up for you real fast. So start it, simple. You're gonna first set your throttle halfway, and then you're gonna turn your key backwards for your glow plugs. Make sure your clutch is disengaged or you're in neutral. See, all the lights came on there, so that's the parking switch, because it's got to be, it doesn't engage with the pedal. You actually have to engage the rod, which is down here next to the pedal. Give it a few seconds. You can hear the electronic fuel pump kick on. Now, I've heard these engines actually could run without the lip pump on them. The lip pump is just there for an assistance. Some people have had them fail and not realize that they failed and the tractor was still running. That should be more than enough. There you go. It's not very loud either compared to some. We definitely got to do something about that grill though. Well, as always, guys, be safe, take care of one another, and all the way.